The hard part is that this has really laid bare all the inequities that we have.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful, it's funny, I posted on Twitter this morning, or no, yesterday I posted on Twitter, but I went out for a walk. So yeah, new habits, trying to develop some new habits here. I got a new Apple Watch and I am committed to getting my 10,000 steps a day. So I'm like, all right,
Oh, good for you.
I'm going to step out of the office every day that the weather's good. And I'm going to go for a walk around East Providence. And everywhere on the sidewalks in East Providence yesterday, I kept seeing those plates from the Works Progress Administration.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw your picture. Yeah.
Yeah, from like 1935 to 1939. And I thought, this is like probably a sign of what we really have to think about, in terms of what recovery is going to look like and what opportunities we'll have in recovery. I mean, I know we started the year and we were really focused on an agenda around supportive housing for everyone. And the fact that people didn't have a safe place to shelter in place, really elevated that whole issue. And I'm hoping that we can, despite the budget deficit, get more traction on that. I don't think it's ever been more obvious that people need minimum, income supports, or that everybody needs healthcare. So I'm hoping that the silver lining in all of this is that it really pushes a common agenda that, that helps people live healthier, more successful lives. Our work, any work that we do in nonprofit, is easier if, the basics are covered. Good policy makes it a lot easier to fill in the gaps. But, that safety net, when we don't have those basic things, it's just harder and harder. It's a heavier lift.
So we just jumped right in.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Very Lisa.
I love to talk about work. Yeah.
I know. And I love to talk to you about work. So, hi, Lisa Guillette is Executive Director of Foster Forward. And I'm going to let you explain what that is.
So Foster Forward is a statewide nonprofit organization that works with children and youth in foster care, young adults who've aged out of the foster care system. We also provide some supports to the families who are caring for them and other adult supporters. Essentially, what we've really tried to focus on in the last couple of years is that we know that there is a critical array of services and supports that, from a perspective of the research and the evidence, makes a meaningful difference in helping young people make successful transitions to adulthood. So we know that that asset mix, or that portfolio, includes, concentrated supports on educational achievement and workforce development, supportive housing services to ensure that there's stable housing, income supports in terms of financial capability, and then help actually learning how to save and match and build assets, and being able to have supportive adults along the way who can be trusted advisors and be there in times of need. And lastly, the mental health and well-being. So really, focusing on addressing any substance use or other mental health concerns, and then just overall helping young people overcome the trauma that they've experienced, and really develop a mindset, a growth mindset, so that they can be successful in their future. So all of the programs and supports that we offer at Foster Forward are tailored towards supporting those particular areas. We've worked hard to develop research-based programming. Some of the programs are nationally recognized. They were piloted and developed in-house and funded with federal dollars. We had a research project that funded Works Wonders, and we were really excited to see that work 7 years later culminate in a Harvard Kennedy Innovations in American Government Award. And now we're in the process of trying to replicate that work, both to ensure that we have an impact, not just in Rhode Island, but nationally on moving the needle for older youth in foster care, but also we're seeing it as a way for Foster Forward to continue to diversify our funding mix and potentially use our core competencies to help fuel future funding for the organization, almost like a social enterprise. Mm-hmm. So so we're pretty busy.
Got a few things going on. Yeah.
And the pandemic didn't really slow us down in that.
So what has it been like for you? And I would say, for your organization, but also for you personally, because you're
personally, it's hard. I'm like a super extrovert, so Zoom calls just don't do it for me. And I feel like I lose a lot of energy in the day in all of these Zoom calls. And then it's funny because there's been so much development of like webinars and opportunities to like, you know, train and learn more about this or that. And you would think that you'd have more time to do some of those things. I actually really haven't had a lot of time. It feels like so much of just the details of keeping the organization afloat. You know, we are social distancing. We only have a couple people in the office at a time. So, you know, an hour ago, some foster parents needed masks, and I was putting them in envelopes and walked them up to the post office and mailed them. That was part of my commitment to walking. But really,
10,000
like,
steps.
just, yeah, getting the steps in. So really just doing all of those things. And then most of our staff are working from home. We do have a few staff that are on the front line, and just prioritizing keeping them safe. You know, in the beginning of this, we did not have PPE from the state. Thankfully, we had some great board members who were able to access masks early on for us. I think we were early adopters in this. You know, I think it was March 11th that we pulled all the staff into the boardroom, and we were on the whiteboard, and we were like, all right, what potentially is going to happen here? And how are we going to move our activities from an in-person experience to a virtual experience if need be? What's our business continuity plan? And, you know, we thankfully have a really good remote infrastructure already. We've invested in really strong IT services through Envision Technology Advisors. They've been a great partner with us. So it wasn't hard to move all of our staff to an at-home environment. I think we had 2 computers that we had to upgrade because they weren't, you know, as stable as they needed to be. And getting Zoom, like we bought, I mean, in 1 week we bought Zoom. We upgraded our email encryption so that we could send, you know, more sensitive information back and forth if needed about clients. And we invested in DocuSign because we had with telehealth a number of consent documents that needed to be shared with young people, and they needed a way to be able to access that from a smartphone or from a computer or iPad.
Yeah, I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, so, you know, a couple of those things. It was great because the Champlin Foundation ended up offering a grant opportunity for existing grantees. And we were able to name some of those costs, which otherwise, you know, really would be cumbersome. We got 15,000 from them. And I think that really helped us out because those were not expenses that we had otherwise budgeted for. We've done this model, works wonders for workforce development for kids in foster care. And we have an amazing curriculum. We're replicating in other jurisdictions, but we still hadn't brought the work online. And we were talking about the opportunities for bringing it online, particularly in serving rural populations. So one of our replication sites is in Nashville, Tennessee, and they're looking at some more rural counties. And we were not yet online. And then this happened, and within a week, we were conducting all of our classes online. So the things that we thought were just too hard to accomplish, you know, all of a sudden we were in kind of rapid cycle iteration, and, you know, perfect was the enemy of good, and we just made it happen. And it's, you know, that part's been great. And for us, the stuff that we brought online, we had a hard time getting kids regularly in our GED classes. So nationally, only about 50% of kids who age out of foster care have a diploma or a GED by age 19. And when we think about the requirements for skilled labor, you know, and the governor looking for like post-secondary achievement for young people and kind of having everyone have a post-secondary credential, 70% of all Rhode Islanders having a post-secondary credential. If we don't have that diploma or GED, we're not going to be able to do that. And so prior to the pandemic, we had like 3 or 4 kids that came in regularly to GED class, you know, that were really committed and going. As soon as this hit and we had more kids at home, we loaned out some computers. We've had 12, 13 kids logging in a day for GED. So it's, you know, there are opportunities in it that we're trying to seize along the way.
Yeah. And I'm curious what you've seen has been the experience or the impact for the youth that you serve.
Yeah, so they've been disrupted. A lot of our young people work in service industries, hospitality, retail. So, you know, they've been home and out of work. Some of them that have cars have kind of picked up the gig economy of delivering for Instacart or Uber Eats. But we've had a number of young people that have needed extra support. We were incredibly grateful to the governor for showing so much leadership with the executive order that allowed young people, actually going all the way back to January 1st. If a young person had turned 21 in foster care and their case closed from January 1st right up to present, they have the opportunity now to come back into the aftercare program, yes, or into the state's voluntary extension of care program, VEC, and they can stay in that up to 60 days post the end of the emergency declaration. So right now, that would bring us all the way through to August 14th. And if the governor extends the emergency declaration any further, then that would also extend out the date for service. The young people that opt back into the program get case management support, and they're eligible for a financial stipend to help them with their living expenses. So that's been a phenomenal boost. We actually right away had a 79% uptake rate among
Wow.
eligible young people who wanted to come back in and receive those services. So, I mean, that helps us spread the donated community dollars even further. So it just, you know, it's a great example of public-private partnership and why public policy matters so much in terms of, you know, really creating a foundation for us to build from.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well said. And what are you, is there anything that's giving you hope? What are you holding on to? It's obviously not the Zoom calls.
Yeah, it's not Zoom calls. No. Like I said, I think that there's inspiration right now in people understanding that there's a universal agenda for health and well-being for all Americans, for really all people in the world. I mean, we're an interdependent system, you know, and I was reading something the other day that just said, you know, what difference does it make, like what we have, if the people around us aren't well or aren't able to meet their basic needs? You know, very early on in this crisis, I have been worried about what recovery is going to look like. I do fear that, you know, despite our great hopes about how we'll come back online, that this really could be the Great Depression of our lifetimes. And I think more than ever, we're going to need the kind of strategies that we had back in, you know, the mid to late 30s, in terms of not taking our foot off the gas of ensuring that we have employment opportunities for everyone. And you know, when I posted that tweet with the picture of what I saw on the sidewalk, you know, somebody wrote back and said that the school, you know, one of the schools that I don't know if they teach in or whatever, was built during that time. And when we think about going into this crisis, you know, there was a lot of concern. I live in Providence, about the poor condition of our Providence public schools, you know, the conditions that teachers are forced to teach in and that students go to every single day. I guess my hope is that we can find ways to keep people employed and supported, but in ways that also grow, you know, our society, grow our communities, grow our neighborhoods. I live in Providence. I live in the Elmhurst neighborhood, and you know, I'm walking every day now. I'm bringing the dog out for a walk. My puppy Rory, who's 8 months old, is like a bright spot in all of this. I'm so glad that in November we dove in and got a puppy, because that's just like endless joy. But every time I walk in the neighborhood, I see people out now doing their spring potting. And it seems like it's more than it was a year ago. Maybe it's that we all have cabin fever and we're realizing that we are going to be home a lot more this summer. So we might as well beautify our spaces. But, you know, neighborhoods matter. I think neighborhood approaches, when we think about equity, you know, I'm always drawn to that statistic that your life expectancy is like, you know, your zip code is the biggest determinant of your life expectancy. So anything we can do right now to change the communities where we live and make them better for everyone, I think that's the silver lining in all of this.
Yes. I'm into that.